This is Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. Great to be with you. Coming up, find out what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar says about voter ID. Really, Crane? Are you going to play the Jell-O clip? Leave it alone. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. It's Friday, and that means most likely we're going to be joined by Woodward, the real Woodward, Chris Woodward. Beat the press. That's right. That's what Chris Woodward does. Beats the press. American Family News, onenewsnow.com, environment and business reporter extraordinaire. And his Twitter is
at AFNC Woodward. At AFNC Woodward.
Now, we had some good news in the sense of the Supreme Court actually stepping in and blocking the putting an injunction on the HHS mandate requiring religious organizations, specifically a group of nuns, to provide contraception, abortifacients through Obamacare.
Yeah.
And here is CBS News Local covering this story, and I just wanted to get your input. Roll it.
Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor has temporarily blocked a provision in the Affordable Care Act that would have required some religious-affiliated groups to cover birth control for their workers. Organizations that didn't comply with the law could have faced thousands of dollars in fines. The request for the stay came from a Catholic group, the Little Sisters of the Poor Home for the Aged in Denver, saying it goes against their beliefs. Religious groups have been fighting since 2011 against paying for contraceptives as part of a health care plan. In 2012, President Obama offered a compromise.
The insurance company, not the hospital, not the charity, will be required to reach out and offer the woman contraceptive care free of charge.
If the Supreme Court rules in favor of the religious institutions, it could have an impact beyond churches and also be felt in the private sector.
In June, a U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals waived millions of dollars in fines against the store Hobby Lobby. The company argued the mandate violated their Christian values. Justice Sotomayor gave the Justice Department until Friday to respond.
My question for you on this is it okay that they did not expose how ridiculously absurd President Obama's comment is when it comes to the providing for free the contraception and trying to draw that distinction between, well, they're doing it for free, so it's not officially paid for. Chris?
They could certainly have expanded their coverage of that. You can actually, if you want to read more on the story, and you can read more details, Charlie Butts has a story today, this afternoon actually, on onenewsnow.com. The headline is, "Will Birth Control Mandate Remain Blocked? Wait and see." We actually have some comments from an attorney of the Beckett Fund there. But I want to bring this up because a lot of times, a lot of the news coverage will just use things like birth control. And it's not necessarily birth control that people, businesses, and individuals have an issue with. It's the fact that a lot of these things, they say, are abortifacient and sterilized and things of that sort. And that is why a lot of people have an issue with it, on top of maybe the contraception that some groups have an issue with.
And well said, and it's good to be pointed out. I just, again, great news. Charlie Butts, wonderful reporter, all of that. What gets me is the idea, this is, as a commentator, I sit back and I look at what has taken place with Obamacare. It's fraud. And so when somebody makes a statement and includes it in their report, I think to myself, well, maybe have a lawyer say what I just said, or somebody say what I just said and say nothing's for free. Simply that. Putting that in there to expose. Otherwise, it really draws to the point of saying, well, we're going to let this one fly. I get the fact that they put in the Hobby Lobby case and gave some context to it. Bravo. I'm just saying, when somebody makes a statement, whether it's the President of the United States or John Q. Public, I think they have an obligation to put that statement truly into context when it comes to the idea of providing free contraception.
Sure.
So that's just my little bit. And
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people tell me there's no such thing as a free lunch. And, some people say, well, you hear that all the time, but certainly there is nothing free. I mean, even if you're listening to us on the radio right now, you still paid for, in some way, form, fashion, or another, to be able to hear that. If it's in your car, you paid for the car. If you're listening on a stereo at home, you paid for the stereo. It's coming in over the air free, but you paid for it some way.
maybe some people wouldn't end up like this woman in Colorado who was cheerleading for Obamacare and then realized, oh, the price goes up, can't afford it. She doesn't qualify for subsidies. Roll it.
And Kate Hawley had health insurance was about 13 years ago when she got kicked off her parents' plan. Fast forward to now, as a 33-year-old married mother of a 1.5-year-old boy.
So I was planning on using Affordable Care Act, and I'd done the online calculator that they had in advance to make sure I was going to be able to afford it.
Hawley works as a freelance yoga instructor. Her husband works for a local nonprofit, which does pay for his health insurance, but to add on Hawley or their son would cost far more than the couple can afford. So Hawley turned to cover Oregon.
With our income level, we should qualify for subsidies, and we would have if it wasn't for this loop. I guess it's a loophole. I don't know what to call it.
Even though Hawley and her husband's combined income should qualify her for the subsidized health care plan, she has been told she does not qualify, and the private plan options are still too expensive. So she continues to go without health insurance. Cover Oregon spokesperson Michael Cox tells me as of January 1st, Cover Oregon has been successful enrolling some 130,000 people statewide. And it's possible people who filled out applications and qualified may not be aware they have health insurance yet. But that's not Hawley's case.
I guess I'm hoping somehow that I will find out that there's a way around this, but I don't know yet.
There's the impact of the story. My question is, this information was pretty much available by commentators, people that were analyzing, experts in healthcare. And now we're seeing the stories and the consequences. And we're seeing it on the local level oftentimes, but some national news. But my question for you is to grade the coverage of the Obamacare disaster, not just the website, but the impact that it is having when it comes to people losing their health insurance.
Ooh, that's
I know it's a tough
grade
one,
it.
isn't it?
You know,
I know you hate that.
No,
buddy.
that's fine. That's fine. I would give it a D. And certainly, I wish that I could do more with it. You know, there's only so much time in a day, and there are other stories that need to be covered. I'm trying the best that I can. Certainly, a number of organizations have been pointing out that premiums were going to be really high. There is actually an AP story today. That's the Associated Press, something everybody with a broadcast or print operation license prints or airs. Even the Associated Press says today that skimpy health law plans leave some underinsured. So I'd give it a D. They have covered it, but certainly there's a lot of things they could be doing to improve it. And then other people have only focused on the so-called benefits, the fact that you can get a coverage for less than $100 a month and all that stuff.
So now we move to, again, always appreciate the context we're just moving through because of time limitations that you've mentioned. All of us have to contend with that. And so very well said, and can't be said.
Let me add something too real quick if I can. If
Sure.
you are curious as to what maybe a bankruptcy, what your level of income and all that stuff is, you can go on your internet, an internet connection. You can go to the library if you need an internet connection. Go to a search engine, Google, what have you, and type in healthcare.gov/exemptions. That portion of the website works fine. And you can find a list of the various things that you can, various forms of things that offer an exemption from the individual mandate.
Bravo. Bravo. All right. So now we go to CNN and the Colorado law for medical marijuana, the usage of, and the legalization of. Here we go. Roll it.
People have waited a lifetime and others have waited in line for hours in the cold just for the chance to legally buy some weed.
Frederica, it was really an amazing experience to be a part of and to witness.
History being made there in Colorado.
History being made there. Your thoughts on the marijuana laws passage and the idea for, hey, legal marijuana, it's good, and history's being made. That almost sounds, It goes to what Shepard Smith once said about marriage and people like you, people like me, being on the wrong side of history because
Yeah.
we recognize gender. But I digress. Go ahead.
I will, history is being made. This is something that's going to go down in the history books for Colorado, and Washington State also has gone in the direction of marijuana, and certainly some other states are interested in it, or people in other states are interested in it. So, we could see more states in the future. The coverage there has been more or less tongue-in-cheek sometimes. You have seen people, they're dancing or they've got glow sticks or whatever. They're standing in line, and, a lot of the people are waiting to get their recreational marijuana, and then a lot of the coverage will use the slang words like pot or weed or what have you.
Or Mary Jane, as I did.
Sure.
Okay.
And there have been instances where that's done. So definitely history being made, but the coverage tends to be a little more in favor of the pot, if you will, than the actual story.
And it's not medicinal, pardon me, it's recreational, legal recreational use of marijuana and the consequences of. Yeah, I do find it interesting, and what an outstanding observation in the sense of how it's being communicated as almost a joke.
Right. And, it's almost an issue that's kind of dividing or causing a divide that already somewhat exists maybe between staunch Republicans and libertarians who are fiscally conservative but maybe socially liberal when it comes to things like marijuana. It'll be interesting, to say the least, to see how that plays out this year.
I always think, when I think of marijuana, I think of the people I know who I grew up with and who really can't function beyond emotionally a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old because, hey, it was no big deal, or the fact that they're addicted, or the fact that the THC level's 4 times what it was when I was a kid, and that really wasn't that much long ago, but it was long ago. And then people going, well, I did it, so I can't really comment on things. Well, have you touched a hot stove? Do you want your kids to touch it? You get my drift?
Right.
But that's me. That's Crane.
Sure,
Just
and something, you and I, you've mentioned before, like when you came to Christ. Certainly, I was not someone who got saved early on, so I kind of know some things from maybe my background that I can share with kids of today to say, hey, let's think about doing some things differently here.
Yeah, I think you got to take the lessons, and I think Christ uses everything to His purpose and for His glory, and I think people. It's interesting what we're dealing with in society, because I think the notion of saying something declaratively, and we certainly see that with the truth, objective truth is not oftentimes recognized, and you see how, well, it has a deleterious effect on pretty much every aspect of life, socially, culturally, and national security and economically. That all said, before you go, Chris, I wanted to know executive orders regarding guns.
Sure.
Will you all be covering the story at the top of the hour, and could you give me the headline?
Sure, we are covering the story. Let me actually read to you. I've got several web pages here pulled up. Actually, if you go to onenewsnow.com, here again, shameless plug.
No, do it. Hey, do it.
At the top left-hand corner, there's a headline that says, via executive order, Obama announces new gun controls. That's President Obama. Reading here from the AP story, the Obama administration is announcing a pair of executive actions aimed at strengthening federal background checks for gun purchasers, with a particular focus on limiting firearm access for those with mental health issues. One proposed rule change aims to clarify terminology used by federal law to prohibit people from purchasing a firearm for mental health reasons. Vice President Biden has been very active today on Twitter, tweeting things about this. We certainly will be following it in the coming days. Chad Grunning will be probably covering that story, and Russ may be on top of some media coverage as well.
That was better than Burgundy. Bravo, my friend.
Stay classy.
And, hey, appreciate it. Hey, one more time, your Twitter feed, and what does Chris Woodward do this weekend?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm battling a little bit of a cold, so I'm probably going to take it easy. I'm definitely not watching my NFL team because they didn't make the playoffs again. I'm not bitter. But
not at all.
Yeah, but no, so I'll probably take it easy with my wife and children.
That's
and
great.
Definitely going to church, going to the Lord's house, and so love my church. And big shout out to all the people who have supported me on Twitter: Wendell, Sonia, even Logan. Some people who have been critical of things that have been said or not said in newscasts. So we welcome everybody, and I look forward to upcoming segments.
We appreciate you making yourself available for this because it gives us insight to the challenges you all face and some greater perspective. And that's what we want to do here. Nothing but truth. We want to recognize narratives, recognize that they're false or not. Of course, that's Crane and giving his opinion. Did you just refer to yourself in the third person? Yes, I did, Crane. I hope you're going to break. I am.
Is that
Real
Captain
soon.
Obvious talking now? Yeah.
It's Captain Obvious.
Right.
But sincerely, the job you do and the challenges that you have, and it's a lot of work, but you do it very, very well, and we appreciate you, Chris. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, I'm going to go take a selfie.
Okay. I can't. There you go. Chris Woodward, the real Woodward, and obviously you can follow him on Twitter, and I will start tweeting at some point in 2014, and I will follow Chris, and hopefully Chris will follow me. It's kind of an agreement we have. But top of the hour, American Family News, onenewsnow.com for more on that story regarding the guns and background checks. You get the latest. That's right, onenewsnow.com. On the flip side, George Will, in 34 seconds, gives you all you need to know about the economy. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is back with more LA gear. No, it's not. No, he is actually on Charlie Rose. Find out what Cap has to say. That was his nickname, right? Cap? About race relations. It may surprise you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on. Say it with me now. AFR Talk.